to the next episode of Turnover on Downs. I am your host, Jake Dom, and joining me as he does every week is my friend Kyle. And in addition to my friend Kyle, we got a special guest here today, is our friend Tanner. How you doing today, guys?
Doing good, man. Doing good. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yep. Doing well as always. Thanks, Jake.
So we'll get right into the typical stuff we typically talk about, our predictions and the recap of the week. But we did want to talk about, first off, we probably should talk about Hugh Jackson of the Browns finally getting fired. I think this was a little bit long overdue. Obviously before the season, he was 1-31 in his 2 seasons there, so I'm surprised it didn't happen before the season. What did you guys think about the firing?
Go ahead, Kyle.
I definitely agree with you. I thought it was kind of a long time coming. I thought it was kind of a little bit silly when they actually won double the games that they have in the last 2 seasons, in this season alone. But I was reading a crazy stat that Belichick would have to lose 1,040 straight games to have the same winning percentage as Hugh Jackson. I just thought that was pretty fun.
Wow. Well, I think the firing, it was long overdue, but I think the timing was weird, and I think the timing was wrong. Cleveland has a pretty good squad that they put together, that Hugh Jackson has put together along with the general manager. The man didn't win a single game the last 2 years, and then he gets a couple wins this year, and they fire him. I get it, but I don't. I think the timing's weird, and I'm very iffy about it.
Yeah, I 100% get what you're understanding. Hugh did put together this team, but like you said, this is a very talented team. At this point of the season, they shouldn't be stuck at 2 wins. And I think that is the main issue. And then now, Kyle, I did want to bring this question over to you. Do you see any possible candidates that could fill that role and, bringing Baker along, or do you think it's kind of a gray area still?
I really don't even think Cleveland has their finalists yet. I was reading earlier that the Oklahoma coach, that they were first predicting that he might come and coach Baker again. He said he kind of didn't have any interest in it, so I think that would have been a good fit, but I don't think they really know either at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And along with Hugh getting fired, their offensive coordinator, slipping on his name.
Todd Haley.
Yep, Todd Haley. He also got fired too as well. So the Browns are really cleaning house at a really interesting point in the season. So we'll definitely have to see where their season goes. But we probably should get to, NFL trade deadline was today. We probably should talk about all the crazy trades that did occur. The first one that went off today was Demaryius Thomas getting traded to the Houston Texans. In addition to that, Golden Tate also went to the Eagles. And all of us being Lion fans, that one definitely hit home the most. Who do you guys think the biggest winner today was today's trade deadline today, Tanner?
The biggest winner?
Yeah, the biggest winner of today.
I don't want to be biased, but I really think the Lions, just off of today, I would say the Lions. I was listening to the radio today on my way to work, and all these Lions fans are calling in to 97.1 and complaining about the trade. It's like the man's getting old. All he is a slot receiver. It's not like our record's any better with him. We might as well get that 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, really can't argue there. That's a good point. I really, as much as I hate to say it, I really don't see us, if we do squeak into the playoffs, I really don't see us doing a whole lot with it. I just think we need another year or two to try to get some more pieces around. But, that'll definitely help that 3rd rounder. You never know what you're going to get there. You said he's old. He's coming in.
That pick is for this year, too. So it's not like we have to wait to find talent. It's not like what what happened with Ty Montgomery. The Packers just shipped him over to Baltimore for a 2020 fifth-round pick. Nothing. At least we don't have to wait 2 years, and it's a third-round pick. And, NFL draft is always deep. There's always someone that is overlooked, and I feel like we can find that with this pick.
And yeah, exactly. And I think it does depend on who we do end up taking with that pick, and we'll kind of see who the winner and loser is after that. Because if we pick someone that's bad, obviously Eagles probably win that trade. But I think that's enough about that. I think we should hop right into the week now. So let's start things off with your performance of the week. Kyle, who'd you have this week?
I kind of, took a little while to decide on mine. I think there's a lot of good performances, but not, one huge one that stuck out to me. So I went ahead and picked Deshaun Watson this week. He had a really great game. Nothing too flashy with his yards. 16 completions for 239 yards. But he did have those 5 TDs, which was enough to kind of skyrocket them past the Dolphins. He had almost a perfect pass rating at 156 as well. So all around really good game from Deshaun Watson today, or Thursday.
Tanner, who'd you have for yours?
You guys might not agree with me on this one, but I'm actually going to go with Todd Gurley. He didn't score any touchdowns, but on 25 attempts on the ground, he had 114 yards. He had 6 receptions, averaged 4.6 yards per carry, and he was just carrying that team. They just give him the ball, and he does whatever he wants out there on that field. And I really think he's a once in a generation talent. I think he's the MVP so far. So I know he didn't score, and then I don't know if you guys noticed, but at the end of the game, he just kind of dropped down so that the Rams could win, and he didn't score. And I know that set fantasy owners on fire, but I respect that for trying to win the game. So yeah, I would go with Todd Gurley helping his team out against Green Bay.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a great pick, and we're gonna get more into that Green Bay game later. But my performance of the week is the one, the only Cam Newton. Baltimore came to town this week, and he took care of business like he has been the last couple weeks. Really efficient, 21 to 29, 220 yards, 2 TDs and no interceptions, not to mention another 52 yards rushing and a TD there. Everyone knows how lethal he can be rushing. But, when we're on that game, let's just cop right into it. Baltimore did end up losing that game 21 to 36. That makes Carolina 4-1 in their last 5. So, what do you think about this game, Kyle?
Yeah, so I keep on betting against Carolina, and it keeps on kind of biting me. Definitely hats off to Carolina. They pulled it off. I think Baltimore's a really good team, really good defense. They put up 36 against them. So all around great performance there. Like you said, Newton had a really good game. McCaffrey had some yards on the ground, and then just kind of their defense only holding Joe Flacco to 21 points is pretty impressive too.
And yeah, Tanner, what do you think about the Carolina performance?
I was very, very, very impressed. I think this team is finally figuring it out with Cam and McCaffrey there. I think this offense is figuring it out. I think that defense is looking a lot better. Like Kyle said, held Joe Flacco to 21 points. You can't complain about that. Joe Flacco's a very good fantasy quarterback, very good numbers wise, and to hold his team to 21 points, you should definitely feel good about that. And they also held him to 192 pass yards. So I'm very impressed with the Panthers this year, man. Whole team's figuring out. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not going to say they'll make a run in the playoffs, but I could see them doing some damage.
Well, I actually was going to make a little bit of a hot take here and say that I think after the Eagles and the Rams and the Saints, I think that Carolina is that next team right now. I think they're playing the best out of anyone other than those teams right now in the NFC. And I did want to shout out. We did see Lamar Jackson sighting. He did get a chance to go in that last drive, and he did throw a touchdown pass. So I thought he looked pretty impressive in that drive, even though it wasn't garbage time. But he looked composed. He looked good, and I think that was a bright spot for the Baltimore going forward. Was to see him come out and actually lead a touchdown drive. So, as we were talking about in Carolina, 4-1 their last 5. Let's go to a team that's not so on so hot of a streak. Jacksonville and Philly played in London, and Philly pulled this one out 24-18. Jacksonville now on a 4-game losing streak. They look like they have a lot more problems than just Blake Bortles. They trade for Carlos Hyde, and he comes in, only rushes 6 times for 11 yards. He can't get it going. What do you think of this game, Tanner?
Well, I believe this was the London game, correct?
Yep, this is the London game.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I only caught the second half of it. I didn't realize they were playing in London this week. And I tell you what, man, the Jags just have been extremely disappointed. I think in that game Sunday, we learned more about the Jags than we did the Eagles, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
This Jags team last year, I think it was a fluke, and it's going to continue to be a fluke until they can get a quarterback. And I don't think Bortles played awful, but and you know what? Not even Bortles. Jacksonville's defense is falling apart. Jalen Ramsey's getting burnt. He's not backing up his smack talk, you know. And so, but with that being said, I think Philly looked better. I think Carson Wentz is looking more comfortable in the pocket. He's looking better coming back from that injury. I think Philly will end up going 9-7 or something. So I think this is a good win for them, and I think it's going to put them in the direction. As for the Jaguars, I don't believe in the Jags this season.
Kyle, what about you? What do you think of the Jaguars' performance?
Yeah, just kind of all around pitiful. Like Tanner said, Blake Bortles didn't play awful like he usually does, but that defense didn't really help them out. They couldn't really get it running out there, get it going on the ground. They had like 60-some yards or so. If the Jacksonville Jaguars don't find a running game, then they're not gonna do anything really quick. So,
and I tell you what, man, they are missing Fournette. They are missing their best offensive player, so that's going to take a hit. But they got to do something. They got to do something for at least this season.
And they did try to trade for Hyde, so maybe that will kind of come to speed when he gets a chance to get more familiar with the offense. But let's go to a team that didn't have as much problem running the ball. The Seattle Seahawks. They came into our house, the Lions' house, and we only lost by 2 touchdowns, but they controlled the whole game. I don't think there was ever a point, maybe after the first touchdown, we were in it, but after that, it was Seattle's game, and we were playing our heels the rest of the game. Kyle, I know you were at this game. What did you see when you were there?
Got a hit on it. We were pretty much dominated the whole game. It was really just kind of defeating when Amir Abdullah fumbled that kickoff return. Kind of the whole stadium just kind of sighed, and I don't know, just didn't get back into it really until there was that kind of comeback, glimpse of a comeback in the late fourth quarter. But yeah, it just wasn't enough, and we can't keep on relying on Stafford to do it all in the fourth. We gotta be a more well-rounded team. Play all 4 quarters and not get behind like that.
Tanner, what did you think of our performance? I know that we talked about it and you were complaining.
Well, first off, you guys know I can ramble about anything for a long-ass time. Excuse my language. So I'm going to try and keep it short. I'm tired of not knowing which Lions team is going to show up. You guys know what I'm saying? Like, one week, we're beating the Patriots. We're stomping the Patriots. The next week, we're losing to a terrible team. Not a terrible team, but a bad team. You know what I mean? Teams we should be beating. But as far as Sunday goes, we just, like you guys said, we got dominated. We absolutely got dominated. And Stafford, I don't think he played bad, but late in the game, he played bad. That pick at the end of the game, that was awful. Like, we saw that happening.
Well, not to mention the fumble as well late in the game.
Yeah, the fumble, too, absolutely. Thank you, Jake. Thank you. Absolutely. And we're just a mess right now, guys. The Lions are a mess. We shouldn't be. What are we now? 4-4.
3-4, I believe.
3-5. 3-4.
Yeah. Go.
Yeah, 3-4. My bad. 3-4. And there's a reason because we let Chris Carson, who, and no disrespect to Chris Carson, he's a hell of a back. He's really surprised us this year, but we can't let him run all over us like that. We can't. And Seattle did exactly what they wanted to do. They ran it down our throats, and that led to Russell Wilson coming off the play action and throwing 3 touchdowns. Russell Wilson was 14 for 17 completions and attempts, 248 yards. He didn't even throw that much, and he had 3 touchdowns. That's what the running game does.
Oh, yeah, and when you open up that play action with Russell Wilson, what are you going to do? That just creates some bootleg opportunities, and that's where he's going to be at his best. So, yeah, we definitely got to bounce back this week. But what, Kyle, were you going to say?
Just to kind of capitalize on what you guys were saying, there was quite a few times where even I was faked out that Wilson was going to take off, and I was like, Chris Carson running down the field for a 20-yard game. So yeah, just all around really disappointing performance there.
Yeah, and Seattle does look good, and I think that is something we have to look at going forward and seeing what they're like. I know they got a couple tough games going. Obviously, they're not going to win the division with the Rams, but they're definitely in one of the plays for one of those wild cards.
Well, I tell you what, man, as long as they have Russell Wilson as their quarterback, they're going to have a chance every year, man.
And not to mention Pete Carroll just showing us what he can do. It's just continually proving that he's a good coach there. But let's get into another NFC North team that also kind of struggled. New Orleans at Minnesota. New Orleans went in here, won 30-20. They now won 6 in a row after that first week loss. Drew Brees was a typical self, 18 for 23. Actually only threw for 120 yards. So he wasn't that electrifying, but, Saints defense made enough plays. Kamara was doing his thing. You had Ingram rushing, and them two together, not to mention Thomas on the outside. It was enough to get it done over this good Vikings defense. What did you guys think of the Saints' performance?
I think the Saints played pretty well, all around solid. Keeping Minnesota down to only 20 points is pretty impressive for their defense. I don't think they looked, as great in their offense, but that's just because they're playing in Minnesota against the Minnesota defense. So can't really fault them there. Kirk Cousins had a really good game, though, threw for 360 yards. Did have that one pick, but still pretty good performance on him. And I don't think he's Minnesota's problem at all. I just think that they can't piece it together quite yet this year, but hopefully that'll turn around.
Tanner, what did you think of their performance?
Well, I thought that the Saints. I thought it was a very underwhelming win for the Saints. Drew Brees only throwing for 100-something passes. How much was it?
120.
Okay, well, that's not very Drew Brees. He was accurate. He was moving the ball around. Michael Thomas had 5 receptions. Kamara had 7. Ingram had 3. Smith had 3. Hill had 1. He was moving the ball around like he does. It was just he just wasn't spectacular. But I guess at this point in his career, he doesn't need to be spectacular because he has a good team around him. They were great on the ground. I think Ingram and Kamara are the best running back tandem in the league by far. By far, they are killing it, and they're going to continue to kill it. As far as Minnesota goes, but I want to go back to what you said, Kyle. I don't think Kirk Cousins is the problem, but I also don't think he's the answer for this team. think last year in free agency I don't know. I think they kind of had to do it. When you're going to go with Kirk Cousins or Case Keenum, I'd probably go with Cousins, but I don't think he's the answer for this team. I hope he plays well. He did play well Sunday, but you guys have seen him. You guys have seen him late in the season. So.
Oh, yeah, and for sure. And I did want to give a little shout-out to Eli Apple, the Saints' new addition. He did have 9 tackles on the day, which is pretty good for your first game. New Orleans keeps on rolling. So let's talk about the only other team that's probably better than the Saints in the NFC. Green Bay heads to L.A. They end up losing the game by 2 after Ty Montgomery fumbles at the kickoff. He tries to bring it out, ends up fumbling. Aaron Rodgers doesn't get the ball back with 2 minutes left, down by 2. And, 9 times out of 10, if you have those scenarios, he's probably going to go down there and win that game. So Ty Montgomery kind of cost a big mistake, kind of cost the Packers here. LA squeaks out another win, remains undefeated on the season. What do you guys think of this LA team just keep on rolling like this?
Go ahead, Kyle. Yeah, so I would say that, another good win. You never want to underestimate Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. He can do it all, but I don't think it was the most impressive win, but a win nonetheless at home. Like Tanner was talking about earlier, Gurley had another really good game. And Jared Goff had a pretty all right game too, 3 touchdowns, 295 yards. Just a kind of all around, good performance by everybody, but not spectacular. I'm kind of going back to that Saints win, but against a good opponent, win's a win,
Well, one thing I would like to point out first is, did you guys see that fake punt?
Yep, I did see the fake punt. That was pretty.
That was a hell of a call, man. That was a hell of a call. I really like McVay. I think he's going to end up being one of the best coaches we've seen.
Yep,
but
for sure.
To kind of reiterate, I got to be honest here. Ty Montgomery doesn't fumble that ball. First of all, he shouldn't have ran it out. I don't know what he was thinking.
Well, the coaches, all the reports said that the coaches did tell him to take a knee, and that was a big problem. That's part of the reason why he got traded to the Ravens today. So. Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, that's exactly my point. That's a problem. If they tell you to knee, you knee, and he should have. He should have. But if he doesn't fumble, I think Rodgers comes down and wins the game. I really do. I think we were robbed of another Aaron Rodgers moment, and I think that Green Bay was kind of robbed of a win here. But with that being said, Rams are 8-0. They got the dub. Jared Goff did his thing. Gurley did his thing. They're looking dangerous still. And they added Dante Fowler today.
Yep, did want to touch on that.
So I like the Rams going forward. I think that they're definitely my pick in the NFC right now.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to like? They got the running game. Out of all these great offensive teams, like the Chiefs or the Saints, they have the best defense. I know it's not the greatest defense, but out of all those great offensive teams, they have the best defense that can hold them when they do have a bad offensive game. So, yeah, all in all, Rams are going to keep on rolling. You have anything to add to that, Kyle?
Nope, I think you guys pretty much covered it all on that end.
All right, well, let's just hop right into the predictions. The first game I want to talk about for next week is Detroit is headed to Minnesota. Kyle, who do you got in this game and why?
I had a hard time picking this game. I feel like I'm going with Detroit more or less because they're my team, but kind of, Tanner touched on it earlier. You never know what Detroit team you're going to get. They've beaten, good teams this year, so why can't it happen again? Anyway, I picked them to win 24-14, actually. Kind of a bold pick there, but I think Galladay's going to be a lot more involved now with the lack of Tate, so I think that's going to actually kind of help the offense. I think Galladay's going to be, a top receiver in the league, so I expect big things out of him. And then at the tail end of that game last week, we saw Kerryon Johnson, catching a lot of passes and picking up a lot of yards, and I think they utilize that more going forward. I think that would be a good thing. So Bold prediction, but I'm taking Detroit 24-14 over Minnesota.
And real quick, I do want to touch on that. I think an interesting element of this game is going to be who is our number 3 wide receiver. Because I couldn't tell you. I know T.J. Jones has been hurt. We were talking about a little bit earlier. We have an undrafted free agent, Powell. He could definitely be that guy. But that would definitely be interesting to see. But Tanner, who do you got in this game and why?
Well, and this is very hard for me to say, but I'm just trying to be real about it. I like the Vikings at home. I don't like the Vikings at home, but I think the Vikings will win at home. I expect a close game. I expect another heartbreaking Lions loss, guys. I hate to say it, but that's what I'm expecting. And I expect Latavius Murray to have a big game on the ground. I expect Adam Thielen to go for his, as he's had 100 games or 100 yards in each game this season, right?
Yeah, he just tied Megatron's record, so that would be poetic justice to break it against the Lions. That's for sure.
I think we're going to see some poetic justice, and I think he is going to break the record. I expect the Vikings win. I expect a big days for Murray and Thielen. I expect Stafford's going to get absolutely demolished behind the whole line. I think 5 or 6 sacks, maybe a pick or 2.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. I'm going to take Detroit in this game. I get your points. I'm going to take Detroit by the score of 27-24. I think it'll be a close game. But I think for the reasons as you're saying with Minnesota, they just haven't put together 100% yet. And we have seen games where we have put together 100%. And we can, like Kyle said, it depends what team we're going to get. But that'll definitely be interesting to see who takes Golden takes targets and so on and so forth. But let's get to another team in the NFC North. Green Bay is traveling New England this week. This should be a good one. Who do you got in this game and why, Tanner?
I actually have New England. I think it's going to be a great duel. The GOAT and pretty much the talent GOAT going at it, 12 versus 12. And I think the Patriots win a close game. I think it comes down to whether Rodgers gets a chance to come down and win the game, because I expect that the Patriots score late, and I expect that the Packers will get a chance. But I don't think that Rodgers is going to do it in New England this week, guys. I got Pats by a score of, I'll go 30, 36, 28.
Kyle, what are your thoughts on the game?
I'm going to kind of, agree with him there. I do think New England will pull it off. It's in Foxborough, and I think that's the toughest place to play. So I'm going to go with New England 28-20 probably. I think we're going to see Gronk back to full strength, and I think he's going to take advantage of that, pretty crappy defense. And then they lost, Dix, and that's definitely not going to help anything. Big game out of Gronk, and then just the fact that it's, in Foxborough and New England, I think they're going to squeak out a win there against a kind of iffy Green Bay team this year.
I'm actually going to disagree with you guys. I'm going to take Green Bay in this game by a score of 35-30. I think that Aaron Rodgers has been building chemistry with these young wide receivers every week. They really found something last week in Aaron Jones, it seemed like, on the running game, and New England does not have the best defense. They didn't look that great against the Bills team. I know they put up 26, but 7 of those were from a pick 6. I think the Packers did look pretty good last week against a great Rams team. So I'm going to take Green Bay in that game. Barely pull that one out. But it should be a good one regardless of who pulls that one out. I'm excited for that one. So Let's talk about another good game this week, a rivalry game actually. Pittsburgh is traveling to Baltimore, and Baltimore's coming off that couple tough losses to a couple good teams, and they got another good one coming to town this weekend. So, who do you got in this game, and why, Kyle?
So this was a kind of one of the tougher picks because Pittsburgh's looked hot. They've had 3 in a row, and Baltimore's lost 2 in a row. But it is Baltimore, so I ended up deciding to go with Pittsburgh 31-20. I think Pittsburgh has looked really good on that offense. James Conner's been putting up massive numbers. Hopefully he can. Kind of continue that against a really good Baltimore defense, but I think he will. And then with Antonio Brown and Smith-Schuster with Big Ben, I think that they're gonna put up enough points to kind of score Flacco and the Ravens offense in this one.
Tanner, what do you think about this?
I like Pittsburgh against this Baltimore defense. I feel like Pittsburgh always plays well against Baltimore, no matter where it is. I expect another big game from James Conner. Not a big game, but a decent game, actually. I expect a decent game from Antonio Brown. I got Pittsburgh by a score of 17-14. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I expect to see Joe Flacco throw 2 picks, 1 touchdown. I got Big Ben throwing 2 touchdowns, and probably I'll go no picks this week for Big Ben. I'm going to make a bold statement on that. I like Pittsburgh on the road in the divisional rivalry win.
Yeah, I'm going to take Baltimore to bounce back this week. I think that they've lost to 2 really good teams. New Orleans was 2 weeks ago, and then the Panthers this past week. I think this defense is going to be motivated to go out and make a statement against this good offense. They get to go back home. And so I think for all those reasons, I'm going to take Baltimore by a score of 20-21. I wouldn't mind if we did see a quarterback change from Baltimore, though, if they did start losing. I think that could really ignite some of their offense, especially with the addition of Ty Montgomery, to really help their running game, maybe get some Lamar Jackson in there. So we'll definitely see where that goes. The next game I want to talk about is the Chargers at Seattle. And Seattle has looked pretty good the last couple weeks, and but so has the Chargers. So who do you guys got in this game and why?
I think that this was the hardest game for me to pick. I am gonna go with Seattle at home. Again, I hate to say this, but I like the way they looked against the Lions. They looked like a well-oiled machine out there, like they used to. I like the Seahawks at home. I think Phillip Rivers is going to come out there and show out. I think Melvin Gordon will show out. But I think Seattle's just going to be too much for this Chargers team. And don't get me wrong, man, this Chargers team is talented. I like the way they play. Phillip Rivers is so underrated. He always has been. I know you agree with that, Jake. And so I expect them to show up, but I expect them to lose. I'm going to go with Seattle by a score of 21-17.
I do think Phillip Rivers is a little underrated. I always thought he has been his whole career. That's exactly why I'm taking the Chargers in that game. At Seattle, I think, like you said, I think the running game is really going to be able to control the game a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, I do have the same score, just flipped. So I'm going to take the Chargers 21-17. I think that offense is just going to be a little bit too much for that Seattle defense. And I think Joey Bosa is expected to be back. So, but Kyle, who do you got in this game and why?
I'm kind of going to go, agree with Tanner on this one. So it was one of the tougher games I had to pick all week, and I think it's definitely going to be going to have a big impact later on in the season. The Chargers are going to be battling for some wild card spots in the AFC, with Kansas City in their division, and then Seattle, like we mentioned earlier, is probably going to be battling it out. So I did go with Seattle, score 27-24. I think Chris Carson's going to have another big game. I think he is a pretty good running back, even though I think those stats were a little bit inflated last week against a really, really bad rushing defense in the Lions. And then just kind of Russell Wilson doing Russell Wilson things. Phillip Rivers is going to get his numbers. He's a really good quarterback, but I think Wilson at home is going to get it done. And then not to mention, I was actually looking ahead, and it's supposed to be cold and supposed to be rainy this Sunday in Seattle, so it's never good for a warm weather quarterback like Phillip Rivers is.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Well, you said it for me, man. Seattle, that's Century Link Field is one of the toughest places to play in all of sports. That 12th man is something serious, and with the weather, the way it's going to be, I agree with you, Kyle. I got Seattle pulling it out.
Yeah, and like I said, that should be a good one. We got a lot of good games this week. But let's get to probably the one that I know I'm probably most excited for. It's the Rams, heading down the Superdome to play the Saints. These have been the two clear best NFC teams throughout this whole year so far, and they finally get a chance to play. New Orleans is not an easy place to play, and I think they have looked pretty good against Minnesota next week. I think if this was at LA, I would be taking the opposite. But since it is at New Orleans, I'm going to give the home field team the win, and by a score of 27-24, and I think the Rams will take their first loss. Kyle, do you think the Rams are going to take their first loss, or do you think they're going to remain undefeated?
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you there. I'm taking the Saints to win this one again. I think this is going to be a lot of offense and not a whole lot of defense. Kamara and Ingram, we mentioned it before, the best running back duo in the league. And then Gurley on the opposite side of the ball is going to kind of run all over that Saints defense as well. I'm taking the Saints 37-31 in the Superdome. Like you said, if it was in LA, I might be more inclined to take it away, but the Saints at home. And I think the Rams are just going to kind of get a little bit complacent. They're in a clear lead of their division, 8-0. I just don't think that they might have the drive to go in there and beat a very, very good Saints team. That's my picks.
Tanner, what do you think?
I did not expect you guys both to pick the Saints, and I will be the odd man out, and I will go with the Rams on the road in the Superdome. I think they are going to show that they are the juggernaut of the NFC, and they are the best team in the NFC. I think they're going to show they're the best team in the league. I like them to improve to 9-0, and I have them win with a score of 37-36, 1 point win. And I think it's going to come down to Jared Goff taking the team down, and who's the Rams kicker? Is it?
I'm not sure on the kicker.
What's his name?
The kicker switched so much.
I recognize if I heard it, but I can't think of it.
Anyway, I know who it is. I'll be mad once I go look it up. But I think it's going to come down to that, and I think he's going to kick a game-winning field goal. Rams 9-0.
And no matter who wins, that's going to be a close one. It's going to be a good one. I think there's a lot of good games this week. So hopefully we'll get another good week of football. But I think that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Appreciate it. But we will talk to you guys next week.